This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
The X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X-Zone Radio Show or endorsed in any manner by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, the X-Zone Broadcast Network, its affiliated networks, stations, employees, or advertisers.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Welcome back, everyone. This is the X-Zone. I am Rob McConnell, coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. If you'd like to send an email, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, and all social media sites, X-Zone Radio TV, and our radio website, xzoneradiotv.com, and the network website, xzbn.net. My guest this hour is Dr. Michael Salla. He is a pioneer in the development of exopolitics. He is the author of several books that include Kennedy's Last Stand, which came out in 2013, Galactic Diplomacy, also in 2013. Dr. Salla was an assistant professor, research and residence in the School of International Service, American University from 1996 to 2004. He has a PhD in government from the University of Queensland, Australia. He is also the founder of Exopolitics Institute, a nonprofit organization that analyzes the political implications of the extraterrestrial presence. Most recently, he is the author of Insiders Reveal Secret Space Program and Extraterrestrial Alliances, due for release in it was released, I should say, mid-September 2015. First of all, Dr. Salla, welcome back to the X-Zone, sir. Great having you with us, and I'm glad one of us is in the sun, and you're in Hawaii. Aloha.
Aloha, Rob. Yes, it's a beautiful sunny day here, and right now I'm taking refuge in the shade.
I'd like to tell you that my heart is broken for you, sir, but that would be lying, and I just wish I was there with you. You've been in this business a long time. I guess I just want to ask you one question, sir. Are we closer to ET disclosure? Are we getting closer?
I think we're definitely closer to the truth emerging about what has been going on with the UFO phenomenon. And it might not be what people expected. Certainly not what I expected, that this was merely a cover of a UFO, of an extraterrestrial presence, but that it actually involves secret projects involving anti-gravity craft, space temporal drives, and space battle groups that have been developed in classified laboratories and facilities.
So what we consider to be science fiction may actually be reality.
Well, this is something that I'm finding more as I continue to do this research, that a lot of the top sci-fi shows that many of us have watched at some point, that these were in many cases actually forms of soft disclosure where the truth was hidden in plain sight, so people would at an unconscious level kind of be prepared for the truth, but at a conscious level, or at least as far as any official statements are concerned, everything was denied. It was all something subject to conjecture. But yet when you look at all the sci-fi shows, and the movies, really there's so much of the truth that's
Sure.
hidden in plain sight that it's really incredible.
So are we seeing, with the advances in handheld technology, more of what we can consider as subliminal programming?
Well, the handheld technology is just one aspect of this kind of information revolution that we are witnessing, where now we've had so much information that has made its way into the public arena through the internet. And now with the alternative news phenomenon, what we have is that the mainstream media is no longer the go-to place for most people to get informed. And that's really been a big change. And we saw that the 2016 election actually is probably one of the clearest cases of where people got their news from the alternative media and they voted accordingly.
Sure. When we come back, if you don't mind, Dr. Salla, because you have a PhD in government from the University of Queensland, could I just talk to you a minute or two about the 2016 election?
I'm very happy to.
All right, please stand by, sir. Exo Nation, our guest this hour is Dr. Michael Salla. And if you'd like to find out more about the doctor, exopolitics.org or exonews.tv. He's the author of Exposing U.S. Government Policies on Extraterrestrial Life, Exopolitics, Political Implications of the Extraterrestrial Presence, The Hero's Journey Toward a Second American Century, Galactic Diplomacy, Kennedy's Last Stand, Eisenhower, UFOs, MJ-12, and JFK's assassination, and Insiders Reveal, Secret Space Program, and Extraterrestrial Alliances. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell. I am in down and dreary Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, while our guest this hour is in beautiful Hawaii. We'll both be back on the other side of this break. Whatever you do, don't go away. Hi everyone, Rob McConnell here, and I wanted to spend a moment on internet streaming. Everybody has heard about internet streaming, but not many know much about it. Did you know the internet streams just about everything?
Movies.
From new releases to old classics.
TV shows.
Almost every show, every episode, and much more. But the question has always been, how do you do it? Well now, thanks to the folks at 123 Ready TV, I have the answer for you. They have developed a simple program app, 123 Ready TV, that you install on your Windows PC, Android smartphone, or Android tablet that can have you streaming like a pro in less than 5 minutes. You truly won't believe how much is available or how easy it is to do until you try. And for a one-time cost of only $19.99, this product is a real winner. To learn more about 123 Ready TV, visit our website at www.xzbn.net.
This is the X Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
How would you like to be able to read other people's minds? Well, the next best thing is here. When you know how to read a person's name, you know how the person thinks, feels, and behaves. Each letter in our name holds a key to unlock our true essence. Our name contains both our gifts and challenges in this lifetime. Mnemology science discovers personality secrets hidden in the placement of the letters of our names, including the first and last impression people remember about us. Sharon shows us how to interpret the arrangement of letters as outlined in her book, Know the Name, Know the Person. Sharon Lynn Wyeth created mnemology science after 18 years of research and testing her theories, and has supported thousands of people around the world in understanding themselves and others better. You'll enjoy Sharon's unique teachings as she shares her system to learn the gifts behind your given birth name. Even if you don't like your birth name, there are jewels in this book. If you're thinking of changing your name, ready to name your child, or wanting to get along better with others, this is the book for you. If you'd like to improve your relationships and change your life for the better, get the book today, Know the Name, Know the Person, or visit www.knowthename.com. That's www.knowthename.com.
Take a step back in time and discover old Florida cuisine at Marsh Landing Restaurant in Fellsmere, Florida. Enjoy delicacies such as frog legs, gator tail, catfish, and swamp cabbage, or enjoy the more traditional cuisine such as hand-cut Angus steaks, ribs, and seafood. Join us for breakfast with a southern flair featuring sweet potato pancakes, biscuits and gravy, and much more. Planning a party? Marsh Landing's private dining rooms can accommodate groups from 8 to 80 people. While you visit, enjoy the historic pictures, artifacts, and stories that line the walls. Marsh Landing is truly a unique experience. Marsh Landing Restaurant, 44 North Broadway in historic downtown Fellsmere, or visit marshlandingrestaurant.com. Marsh Landing, old Florida cuisine at its best.
Exonation, Dr. Michael Salla is our special guest. He also has a brand new book out entitled The U.S. Navy's Secret Space Project. And once again, if you'd like to get a hold of Dr. Salla, find out all about his exopolitics and about Exo News, just go to exopolitics.org and exonews.tv. Welcome back, Dr. Salla. Before we went to the break, we just touched very lightly on the 2016 election. Some people call it a fiasco. Some people call it a wow factor. I'm still scratching my head trying to figure out what happened myself. You have a PhD in government from the University of Queensland. What is your opinion of what happened in the great debacle between President Donald Trump and Secretary Hillary Clinton?
Well, it was a unique election insofar as many people got their views about which of the candidates that they felt was the most trustworthy or could make the biggest contribution to their own lives and policy preferences, not from the major media, but from the alternative media. And that was really something that was a big surprise, because the major media were, their narrative and the opinion polls that they cited clearly showed that Hillary Clinton was going to be winning this quite easily, but in the end it was because so many people were getting their perspectives from the alternative media, from Breitbart News or from Infowars.com, that kind of shade of the political spectrum, that in the end it made a major difference, because people really went out and voted in droves for one particular candidate, even though the major media was saying that the election was pretty much wrapped up in favor of the Clinton.
Exactly. And how could, in your opinion, sir, based on your PhD in government, how could the media have gotten the polls so wrong?
Well, I think it showed that the polls really are driven by particular agendas, that and this was something that again and again was revealed in the election process itself by the alternative media. People were pointing out how many of the polls were slanted in a way to make Hillary's campaign look like it was destined to win, just in terms of clever use of sampling and projecting certain ways in which people would vote. I mean, they used a number of techniques to kind of like skew the polls in a way that made it look like one candidate was going to win and the other lost. But in the end of the day, people went with what the alternative news was telling them, and that was that Trump was this kind of groundswell of opinion, or he was leading this movement against the political mainstream, both Republican and Democrat, and enough people went for that narrative that he got elected.
I thank you very much for your insight, sir. Now let's talk about your mainstay Exopolitics and Exo News. Who is William Tompkins, and what are Tompkins' claims when it comes to regarding the Navy's espionage program monitoring advanced Nazi aerospace programs during World War II? And why is it important?
Well, it's actually a really fundamental development here in terms of how we understand the whole UFO phenomenon, because previously most people associate the UFO phenomenon with the Roswell crash, and even though there have been kind of earlier incidents, that seems to be the kind of like the modern day jumping off point to understand the whole phenomenon. But what William Tompkins does is he kind of redefines or introduces us to this Navy program that existed from the very beginning of the US involvement in the Second World War, which was focused quite clearly on what Nazi Germany was doing in terms of developing aerospace technologies that had some kind of anti-gravity or space-time component to it, and that the Navy's spies that were embedded throughout occupied Europe were bringing about incredible intelligence data about how successful the Nazis were in developing up to 30 different prototype flying saucer craft, and that this was something that Tompkins was then, his job was to take this information to classified facilities, think tanks, university departments, wherever anyone could make sense of it. That was Tompkins' job, to kind of like brief people about what these Navy spies were bringing back.
In your opinion, Dr. Salla, what happened in 1947 at Roswell, New Mexico, when there was an alleged UFO crash?
Well, that's something that I feel has been kind of very clearly answered in terms of some of the main researchers in the field, in particular Don Schmidt and Thomas Carey. Their book Witness to Roswell, I think, did a superb job in just kind of outlining the extensive number of whistleblowers that were able to give us a good idea into what happened at Roswell, that it did involve these extraterrestrial craft, and that it was something that involved multiple levels of a cover-up that was led by the U.S. Air Force.
But the fact that both Carey and Schmidt were involved in the alien mummy in Mexico, doesn't that kind of put a little bit of a gray cloud over the research that they claim to have done in the Roswell case?
Yeah, I think what it does is it just kind of highlights the difficulty that all researchers have in the field, because we have to deal with disinformation. We have to deal with the possibility that people are going to try to kind of pull a fast one over us, and if we let our guard down, and I think in that case, they probably let their guard down, and they kind of made some assumptions there that in the end kind of was very embarrassing. But when you look at their book, it really does. I mean, like for example, the affidavit they provided from William Holt, the public information officer from the Roswell Army Airfield. I mean, this was quite clearly evidence that the cover-up of the UFO crash at Roswell was something that was being orchestrated by senior Air Force officials.
My only problem, well, one of the problems that I point to when I talk about the Roswell case is what happened when Jesse Marcel left the base, went to Brazel's farm, picked up some of the crash debris, and instead of maintaining the chain of custody and evidence by bringing it directly back to the base, he goes to his house and wakes up his wife and his child and lets them play with the evidence. Now, being an ex-cop myself, I know as soon as that happens, that evidence is tainted and can't be used.
Well, this is what Jesse Marcel Sr. and Jesse Marcel Jr. both say actually happened. So, they are primary witnesses, and this is what they say occurred. And, we've got to go with what the primary witnesses say try and kind of analyze exactly what occurred. And yeah, you're quite right that he was probably breaking chain of custody when it came to this evidence, but
Sure.
He probably acted because he thought that this wasn't something that would in any way prejudice his investigation of what was going on there.
I understand that, sir, but what does that tell you about him as a member of the armed forces when he did not follow protocol? He did not follow orders. He went his own way. Doesn't that seem strange?
Well, I guess it tells us a little bit about his personality, that this was something that was so shocking to him that he wanted to share it with his family, that this was incredible, that this was not just an ordinary crash involving some classified aircraft, that this was, in his view, clearly a case of some kind of extraterrestrial phenomenon, and he felt that this was something his family, he wanted to just kind of share that. And I guess it's a very human response, but I agree with what you're saying, that it's certainly outside of what a professional officer would have been expected to do.
Yeah, I don't think my wife would have appreciated me bringing a criminal home that I had just arrested, or in the middle of transporting from one station to another, and say, "Look, honey, look what I brought home, a criminal." But it wasn't a UFO or an anticipated UFO. Do you think that the UFO sighting that Arnold Kenneth had just prior to the crash may have had something to do with the heightened suspicion that this was a UFO?
Well, this was the Kenneth Arnold case. That I think was probably a case that may have involved some kind of classified technology program that was occurring at the time, so it isn't necessarily a case of, say, an extraterrestrial visitation, because those kind of flying wing aircraft were things that were being developed in Nazi Germany, and also immediately after by some of the major companies. I think it was the B-49 that was being developed by Jack Northrop, the flying wing. These kinds of technologies were being developed, and it may not have been an extraterrestrial craft that Kenneth Arnold sighted. And so in that sense, we have the two things running parallel. You have, on the one hand, what may well be extraterrestrial visitation as occurred in Roswell, and on the other hand, you have the development of these classified aerospace programs that were occurring, that were being built by the Navy and by the Air Force.
But what I was getting at, sir, is that do you think that with all the media hype about UFOs that was caused by the Kenneth Arnold sighting, that when Jesse Marcel saw the debris field, that that his anticipation of a UFO crash might have had something to do with the fact of him driving back to his house and showing his son what it was?
I don't know if the kind of Kenneth Arnold incident was something that may have contributed to Major Marcel taking that action. I mean, he was a major in Air Force intelligence, and so responsible position to have, and I think he probably would have been familiar with a lot of advanced or classified aerospace programs, because, as you well know, I'm sure, the 501 squadron was at the time the most that was the elite Air Force bomber squadron, because it was the only one that had nuclear weapons at the time. So it was one of the best at his job, and so he probably really, I think, was really overwhelmed by the significance of seeing what he, I think, concluded was likely an extraterrestrial crash.
All right, you and I have to take a break for our news at the bottom of the cover, Dr. Salla. When we come back, I'd like to talk more about William Tompkins and some of the other information that you were able to find out through the FOIA documents that you submitted. Exonation, our guest this hour is Dr. Michael Salla, and he's got a brand new book out, the U.S. Navy's Secret Space Project. Where is the book available, Dr. Salla?
The book is available through the website exopolitics.org or at amazon.com.
There you go, Exonation. Great book by a very interesting gentleman, and we'll both be back on the other side of this news break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Now, don't forget, X Zone Nation, if you would like to have a all-in-one multimedia app on your laptop, on your desktop, on your iPad, on your iPhone, all you have to do is go to xzbn.net and click on 123 Ready TV. Check it out. I'm Rob McConnell. This is the X Zone. We'll be back on the other side of this break. Hi everyone, Rob McConnell here, and I wanted to spend a moment on internet streaming. Everybody has heard about internet streaming, but not many know much about it. Did you know the internet streams just about everything?
Movies.
From new releases to old classics.
TV shows.
Almost every show, every episode, and much more. But the question has always been, how do you do it? Well now, thanks to the folks at 123 Ready TV, I have the answer for you. They have developed a simple program app, 123 Ready TV, that you install on your Windows PC, Android smartphone, or Android tablet that can have you streaming like a pro in less than 5 minutes. You truly won't believe how much is available or how easy it is to do until you try. And for a one-time cost of only $19.99, this product is a real winner. To learn more about 123 Ready TV, visit our website at www.xzbn.net.
This is the X Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
True healing must address 4 levels: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, for us to live joyful and productive lives. We tend to treat 3 of the 4, leaving the spiritual languishing. If you're tired of the same dysfunctional patterns cropping up in your life, Soul Balancing is for you. Trixie Phelps, owner and founder of Soul Balancing, is a naturally gifted energy healer trained in numerous esoteric forms, including shamanism. Trixie has created a powerful modality that safely and effectively clears your energetic field. A soul balancing session can remove interference, heal trauma, and restore your hope. Contact Trixie for a life-changing long-distance session today, www.soulbalancing.world. There's a legend shared by many indigenous cultures of a time when the nations were cast to the 4 corners of the world. Each nation was given a body of sacred knowledge that held a different portion of the truth to preserve. True reality could not be known until all the nations reunited, combining the information. If a single one was missing, the world could not be reborn and darkness would prevail. The Science of Magic Radio is dedicated to reuniting the sacred knowledge. With the understanding, none of us has all the answers, but together we can open new perceptions and possibilities. Through our combined vision, the world can be reborn into a place where darkness no longer prevails. Join me, Gwilda Wiyaka, and the Science of Magic daily on the X Zone Broadcast Network, xzbn.net, or visit us at thescienceofmagic.net.
My bad, Exonation. It's Monday. I have to apologize to our guest. I have to apologize to you, the Exonation. Dr. Salla's new book is entitled The U.S. Navy's Secret Space Program. Am I right, Doctor?
That's correct, yes.
I apologize for calling it a project. So once again, Exonation, it's the U.S. Navy Secret Space Program by Dr. Michael Salla. It's available at exopolitics.org and on Amazon.com. Okay, apparently you had filed FOIA documents to get some of Tompkins' claims. Can you explain the process by which the documents were obtained, Doctor?
Sure. Well, Bill Tompkins' claims were centered around him being involved in this espionage program that was being led by a rear admiral who was in charge of a department at the Naval Air Station in San Diego. And it took us a while to track down whether or not this admiral actually existed. But once able to verify that such an admiral did exist and did run the assembly and repair department at the Naval Air Station, which is where Tompkins says the espionage program was held. Then FOIA requests were filed, and eventually I got 1,500 pages of documents that basically substantiated some of Tompkins' key claims in terms of this admiral leading this espionage program out of the Naval Air Station. And some of the documents really are quite critical in terms of being hard evidence that Tompkins was involved in some covert program with this admiral.
Now, was this Admiral Rico Botta?
That's correct, yes. And he was in charge of the assembly and repair department at the Naval Air Station from the latter part of 1942 right up until the beginning of 1946. And his position there was that he was the officer in charge of overhauling and repairing and modernizing the Navy's top fighters and bombers that were being used in the war. That was his day job, and at night, according to Bill Tompkins, Botta led this covert espionage program where there were 29 Navy spies embedded in occupied Europe who were reporting back on what the Nazis were doing in terms of their aerospace programs, and that Botta then set up the process by which Tompkins would then put together briefing packets distilled from the debriefings of these Navy spies, and the briefing packets would then be flown to various think tanks and aircraft facilities and university departments, anywhere where there were scientists or engineers that could make sense of what the Nazis were doing, because the Navy were trying to work out whether or not these kinds of technologies that the Nazis were developing and that they had put together various prototypes of these kinds of advanced aerospace craft, whether any of those could affect the outcome of the war. So it was a very serious project, quite clearly. And Tompkins said that this was something that he was involved in throughout the Second World War.
I was wondering if you could tell us about the FOIA document that established a connection between Botta and the Los Angeles air raid incident.
Right. Well, that's a key document because the Los Angeles air raid incident occurred during the night of February 24th and 25th of 1942. And there were a number of reports at the time that as many as 2 craft were retrieved from that incident. There are leaked documents, majestic documents that refer to 2 craft being retrieved, and that one of these craft was then taken to the Army Air Force's premier research facility, which was at the time, and continues to be the top foreign technology research division for the Air Force, which is Wright Field, or now as it's called, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and that one of the documents that emerged through the FOIA Act was a document showing that on the very day that this craft was allegedly recovered after the incident at Los Angeles and sent and orders were given for it to be sent to Wright Field, that on that very same day, Botha, who was at that time in charge of the power plant division for the Navy's Bureau of Aeronautics in Washington, D.C., he receives orders to fly to Wright Field and to be there in early March. Presumably this is when whatever it was that was discovered from the LA raid would be taken to Wright Field. So this was an important document, I think, linking Botha to that incident.
What do you think happened to the craft and the two craft and their occupants?
Well, as far as Bill Tompkins is aware, he says that through his involvement in this Navy espionage program, he learned that two craft were recovered, but they were both pilotless drone flying saucers, and that this was something that was being studied by the top scientists, and because these were foreign technologies, they were taken to the top foreign technology research facility in the country, which at that time was at Wright Field.
So let me ask you this. Why do you then believe the Los Angeles events involved the recovery of two alien flying craft, but there were no bodies? They were drones?
That's right, yes.
Okay, gotcha.
This is something that Bill Tompkins says that he was exposed to that information while serving on this covert Navy intelligence program. We do know, of course, from historic documents that the incident did occur, that there were a number of craft up there, that there were several thousand artillery shells that were kind of launched against them, and that there were reports of one or more of the craft being shot down, but that the major newspapers basically dismissed those reports as being unsubstantiated. But later on, in the 1990s, when you had the leaks of the Majestic documents, several of these documents actually referred to two craft being retrieved from the Los Angeles incident. Now, of course, the Majestic documents themselves are something that are very controversial, but still, we have multiple sources actually referring to something being retrieved, and so when you add all these up together, and then you have Admiral Botha being given those orders to travel to Wright Field on the day of the Los Angeles air raid incident, you put all those things together, the conclusion is that something was discovered, something was retrieved and taken to be studied at the place which at the time and today continues to be the premier research facility for the Army Air Force of foreign technologies.
If these craft were of extraterrestrial origin and they were drones, why would the ETs use craft that were driven by ETs in the Roswell case? Wouldn't they also want to use drones to keep their anonymity?
Well, I think that the Roswell case may well have involved a different group of extraterrestrials. That whatever happened at the Los Angeles air raid incident, that this was something that I believe, and this is what I argue in the new book, that this was actually kind of like a gift, like a way in which this group of extraterrestrials could help the U.S. Better understand exactly what was happening in Nazi Germany, that Nazi Germany was doing its own advanced kind of flying saucer projects, and that and this is something Bill Tompkins says the Navy discovered that the Nazis were actually being actively helped by a group of extraterrestrials, and that's quite phenomenal for a lot of people to think that is it possible that Nazi Germany was being helped during the war by one group of extraterrestrials, and that secretly another group of extraterrestrials were helping the Allied powers. But that's exactly what Tompkins says was occurring, and he says what the Navy spies were telling the Admiral Bolter and the other Navy officers that were a part of this Navy espionage program.
Every alien contactee that I've ever had on the show, or people who are, I'm putting this in air quotations, experts into the UFO phenomenon, tell me that the ETs have a pact that they will not interfere with the development of any country on Earth. So why would one ET group help the Russians while another ET group, help the Germans, and another ET group help the Americans if there's this non-interference clause?
Well, I think that non-interference clause probably does exist, and that those that are kind of more ethical in terms of how they interact with developing worlds like ours,
right?
And we have to kind of think of our planet as a developing world. If there are extraterrestrials visiting from other star systems, that they do have highly developed codes, but that that doesn't mean that all extraterrestrial groups are going to follow the law, just as we know in international politics. I mean, you have many nations that while they follow kind of norms of international law, there are always going to be some nations that are going to invade neighbors or intrude in the affairs of others, despite what international law tells them. And probably the United States is probably one of the biggest violators of national sovereignty around the world.
Sir, I agree with you 100%. Why don't the ETs just land and get it over with? The White House, Red Square, the Kremlin, Ottawa, Parliament Hill, Buckingham Palace. Why don't they just land, get it over with, so that they can help this world be a better place using their technology and their advanced sciences?
I think that the extraterrestrials, no matter what perspective or what kind of ethical behavior they conduct themselves with, I think ultimately they're going to kind of like say, well, who do we form agreements with? And the agreements are not going to be with the private citizens. They're going to be with elected representatives or with the military intelligence communities of the major nations around the world. And if the intelligence, the national security system decrees that this is information that's not going to be shared with the general public or the mass media or even elected officials, then I think the extraterrestrials' hands are pretty much tied. If they have agreements, and I think that there's a good case to be made that agreements have been reached, with different major nations ever since the Second World War, and that these agreements, part of the agreement on the side of the major nations that were a party to these agreements was that the extraterrestrials would remain silent.
Got about 40 seconds before I take my break, sir. But wouldn't MJ-12 prove the existence of that agreement?
Well, in MJ-12, I believe, as the documents suggest, was something that was convened by President Truman and then gradually increased its power during the Eisenhower administration, and that the people that were making these policy decisions were increasingly from the MJ-12 committee, and that power...
All right, Doctor, I hate to do this to you, my friend, but we've got to take our break. Please stand by. X Zone Nation, Dr. Michael Salla is with us. When we come back, I'll tell you how to get all the information you need from the fine doctor. We'll be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away.
This is the X Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
I am Dr. Carl O'Helvey, founder, president of a new cancer foundation focusing on evidence-based physical, mental, and spiritual interventions, including natural cancer cures, prayer, meditation, affirmations, nutrition, and other related holistic cancer prevention and cure modalities. These are used in cancer education, research, and financing care. I ask for your help to continue this important work by donating at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com.
Wouldn't you love to know the secret to everything? I'm Dr. Kimberly McGeorge, and on The Secret to Everything, we will merge the practical with open investigation into all realms of the mysterious. We will talk to cutting-edge alternative health practitioners, those who inspire and motivate you in business and life, and of course, we will share stories of the paranormal, conspiracy, and cryptozoology. You will transform because of the frequency I carry, the frequencies my guests carry. Life may never be the same after you listen to this program, for the secret to everything is for you, the listener, for those who desire more in every area of their lives and believe that it can still be found. Listen and discover thesecrettoeverything.com.
Little children aren't the only ones afraid of the dark. Millions of soldiers return from war zones with PTSD, anger, frustration, fear, and loneliness, much of which surfaces during the darkness of the night. You have the chance to change the lives of these American heroes. Songs and Stories for Soldiers.us provides free MP3 players for these men and women. With a list of 3 million songs in 16 different styles, 100,000 audiobooks, and 30,000 old-time radio programs, every veteran can find something to soothe and comfort them at no cost. All our players contain an 8-hour audio program designed to help veterans fall asleep. With 1,500 plus vets now participating, it's our goal to deliver 10,000 audio players this year. Go to our website at songsandstoriesforsoldiers.us. Help us help a veteran make it through the night.
Exonation Dr. Michael Salla is our special guest. His new book that just came out is entitled U.S. Navy Secret Space Program and Nordic Extraterrestrial Alliance. And you can find out all about this book on his website, exopolitics.org, and of course on Amazon.com. Dr. Salla, who is Leslie Stevens, and what kind of agreement did he have with Gene Roddenberry in creating the concept of Star Trek?
Well, Leslie Stevens was the producer of the Outer Limits science fiction series, and Gene Roddenberry actually attended some of the sessions of the Outer Limits and got a lot of his ideas for his next show from Leslie Stevens. Now, what makes Leslie Stevens quite unique is that he was the son of Admiral Leslie Stevens, who was one of the direct Navy officials involved in this space program that the Navy had set up as a consequence of the espionage program that had been conducted during the Second World War. So Leslie Stevens, the Admiral, was a key figure in the development of psychological operations during the 1950s. He actually helped the Navy set that up. And his son, Leslie Stevens, actually worked for U.S. military intelligence, that he was involved also in that side of military operations. And so both Stevens, father and son, were aware of what was going on as far as the Navy developing this program. And I believe that part of the psychological warfare program was to use the media, the mass media, as a means of seeding the truth, hiding the truth in plain sight, and that Leslie Stevens Jr. worked with his father in this, and so that by the time he met Gene Roddenberry in 1963-64, he was feeding Roddenberry a lot of the ideas that ultimately led to the creation of Star Trek. And I believe, and this is what I argue in detail, there's a chapter in the book that focuses on this, that basically the whole Star Trek series, when you look at it, it's quite clearly a kind of reflection of many of the same kind of extraterrestrial groups that the Navy had become aware of during the 1940s and 50s.
Including the Nordics?
Including the Nordics, yes. That the Nordics, these were represented by the Vulcans, and even you could even say that Captain Kirk himself represented how the Nordics operated. That the entire concept of the Galactic Federation was something that was based on this Nordic extraterrestrial alliance that had helped the Allied powers during the Second World War defeat Nazi Germany, which was being helped by another group of extraterrestrials, which in the Star Trek series are depicted as the Klingons. So you have the Klingons and the Federation in the original kind of iteration of the Star Trek series as being principally involved in this galactic-wide war, having their own separate zones of influence. And I think this is something that basically was based on what the Navy spies had revealed to the Navy during those debriefings during the Second World War.
With all the computer hacking that is going on these days, Doctor, would it be possible to still maintain in secure files somewhere the information pertaining to any ET contact with any major government? And wouldn't it be a coup for, let's say, Russia or China if they were able to hack into the U.S. and prove to the American public that they had been lied to for so many years? Wouldn't that put a big dent in the credibility of the government and possibly the fall of the government?
Yes, that would definitely be something that would be quite a coup if any major government got access to these files that deal with these highly classified programs and the involvement with extraterrestrial life. I mean, these files are part of compartmentalized programs, which is way above top secret. And typically, you look at, say, the Edward Snowden documents, those leaks of the NSA. These were documents that kind of dealt with secret and maybe top secret, but they didn't go beyond that. They didn't go into special access programs or compartmented programs. Similarly with the WikiLeaks, with the WikiLeaks, the State Department files, these were confidential and confidential and secret files. So certainly, yes, the hackers can get into some of the kind of files that are stored that deal with kind of secrets that are classified at those lower levels of confidential, secret, or top secret, according to the U.S. classifications system. But when it comes to compartmentalized programs, the files, the kind of security protocols that are in place are much more stringent. It's much easier to control because each of these compartments, we're not talking about a vast bureaucracy of hundreds of thousands of people. These compartmentalized programs are much tighter in terms of the personnel who have access. So that way they're able to control who has access to these files and whether or not any digital files are made available to anyone.
During the research for your book, U.S. Navy Secret Space Program and Nordic Extraterrestrial Alliance, as well as any of the research that you did on Nazi Germany and their space program, did you come across any conclusion or any possible explanation for Foo Fighters?
Well, these, I think, were probably one of the technologies that the Nazis were looking at that they were hoping to weaponize for the war effort, that the Nazis were using a lot of the kind of information that they had gained from many different sources and trying to find out which one would be of greatest utility for the war effort. And this is probably an explanation for the Foo Fighters that seem to be some kind of electromagnetic device that would interfere with the electronics of any aircraft that it encountered. And so maybe this was something that the Nazis hoped would be effective against the bomber fleets that the Allies were using during the Second World War. But I think that in the end, the Nazis in Europe, at least, were just overwhelmed by the number of bomber aircraft that the Allies were sending.
I had a guest on the show 2 weeks ago, sir, and he said something that I've been scratching my head about, and maybe you can help. He said if it wasn't for the Germans, the United States would never have gotten to the moon. How do you feel about that statement?
Well, that's very interesting. I wouldn't agree with that. I think that there have been classified programs that have been successful in getting to the moon and other places like Mars. I think that this is one of the things that a number of the secret space program whistleblowers that I've been working with have been talking about: bases on the moon, bases on Mars, and kind of deep space. So without Germany's, without the German technology projects that were underway during the Second World War, it's possible that these kinds of classified programs wouldn't have been successful because they do use anti-gravity and kind of torsion field technologies for their propulsion systems. But as far as rocket propulsion is concerned, I think that yes, that those principles were well understood, and that they would have gotten to the moon eventually because despite obviously the Germans were the first to develop rocket propelled technologies,
sure.
The V1, V2 rockets and so forth. But the US were also doing the same thing. I mean, the US wasn't that far behind when it came to rocket technologies. Just the Nazis were a little bit ahead, but eventually the US would have caught up. So maybe the moon landing wouldn't have happened in '69. The NASA moon landing, maybe it would have been a decade later. But I think it would have eventually happened.
I've got less than 2 minutes, and this is my final question for you, sir. And once again, I thank you for coming on. I look forward to the next time you're on with us so I can talk to you about what's really happening in Antarctica. But why do you believe President Trump issued a top-secret memorandum to lift the secrecy order on over 1,000 patent applications dealing with health, anti-aging, and free energy?
Well, this is something that I got a briefing from one of the that I've been working with. His name is Corey Good, and he basically says that he was told that President Trump had issued this memorandum, this top secret memorandum that had been sent to the Pentagon and to the intelligence community to declassify over 1,000 patent applications that were held up on national security orders out of a pool of over 5,000. And so when I kind of did my due diligence on that claim, I found out that, yes, those figures were accurate, that in fact there are 5,700 patent applications that have been stopped through secrecy orders. And so declassifying 1,000 of those is very possible. But that what intrigued me was a statement that Trump made in his inauguration speech, where he referred, he said, quote, "We stand at the birth of a new millennium, ready to unlock the mysteries of space, to free the earth from the miseries of disease, and to harness the energies, industries, and technologies of tomorrow," end quote. And so that particular sentence in his inauguration speech, to me, was corroboration that such a secret memorandum was being planned by Trump during his inauguration, and that shortly afterwards he did issue it.
Dr. Michael Salla, thank you so much, sir, for joining us tonight. Continued success, and Exonation. If you'd like to get a copy of the U.S. Navy Secret Space Program, visit Dr. Salla's sites, exopolitics.org, exonews.tv, and his book is available on Amazon.com. We'll be back after the news at 6.5 minutes past. Don't go away.